Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rocky.
Happy birthday
Shall we?
to you.
Hello, dear listeners. In honor of the Rocky Horror Picture Show's 50th anniversary this year, I wanted to bring you an episode I recently did with my friends BJ and Harmony Colangelo for their fantastic film podcast, This Ends at Prom. Rocky Horror has been my favorite movie since I was 11, so anytime I get to talk about it or the culture that it created is, for me, a great joy. And I love this conversation so much that I wanted to share it with all of you unconventional conventionalists. So come up to the lab and see what's on the slab. I see you shiver with anticipation. But you don't need to because it's starting right now.
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
I've heard it's astounding.
Have you heard?
I've heard that time is fleeting.
Have you heard?
I believe yes.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Prom party. The Rocky Horror Picture Show turns 50 this year. I guess I should say it turns 50 in America. It turned 50 last year in the UK.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there has been a movie that impacted my teen experience, the teen experiences of countless generations, just teen culture in general, quite like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So we're going to talk about it. And I am gravitating. Like I'm floating. I'm levitating. I almost said gravitating. That's not the right word. Levitating. I'm floating in air. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Listen, there's no movie like this.
There's no movie like this.
Nothing else.
There's nothing else like this. And with just such a big title, such a big anniversary, just everything about it is so wonderful. There was no way in hell we were doing this alone. We are bringing back friend of the show, friend of the world, the host of American Hysteria, love of my goddamn life, Chelsea Weber Smith.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to talk about what also is my favorite movie. I mean, maybe you're not saying it's your favorite movie, but I will say it is my favorite movie. It is also probably the most impactful movie for me. And I'm so honored to be here. So thank you both.
Oh. There was no one else that we were going to have come talk about this movie. Very early on in our friendship, you had mentioned this being your favorite movie of all time. And I was like, this is how I know that they get me and Chelsea and I are going to be friends forever.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
So let's just go around the room. Harmony, I'll start with you. What is your Rocky history?
I, as a small child growing up in Northeast Ohio, learned about Rocky Horror Picture Show in maybe the weirdest place, which was the Drew Carey Show. Which, by the way, a show I didn't really watch. Like, I have never really, I don't think I've seen a single full episode of the Drew Carey Show at any point in my life. But no, there was the plot of this particular episode was Drew Carey and his friends were like, come on, guys, we're not old or something. Let's go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show like we used to. And they show up to what would be the midnight screening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, only to find out that it has been replaced as a midnight movie with Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And then him and his friends have to have a dance competition opposite Mimi and the other gays.
Okay, that's actually a great plot for an episode.
Yes.
That would be really funny. I
should revisit it because it's in my mind. And I remember there's like a whole musical number. Like it's like a sound stage. Like they went out of their way to do this. But I've never really revisited it to figure out how it is. And then shortly thereafter, like in this exact same time window is when VH1 started doing their I Love series. Mm-hmm. And then when they got to I Love the 70s, they talked about Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I saw a whole lot of things. I saw the Time Warp. I saw Tim Curry. I saw a bunch of comedians just be like, why am I so attracted to Tim Curry in drag? What does this say about me? And then after that, it was like just kind of something that lived in the back of my mind. You know, I knew what it was, but it wasn't until I got access to like LimeWire that I illegally downloaded it and could actually watch it. So that's my history with this in a nutshell.
I love this. I also feel like Mimi would be the greatest person to run into at like a Rocky Horror midnight screening.
Yeah.
Because her day makeup is already like, I'm going home Frankenfurter eyeshadow. So she would probably absolutely crush it.
Yeah.
Chelsea, what is your Rocky story?
Okay, so I think I was probably like 11, and my dad, who is like a true certified freakazoid, was like, I have something to show you. And we were on some kind of little trip, and he went and rented Rocky Horror on VHS, which feels important, and, you know, popped it in the VCR, and off we went. And I was just I didn't know why, but it resonated so deep within my soul, which of course was an early indication that I was queer. And I just, from there, I thought about it all the time. I watched it all the time. I tried to get other people to get it, and, you know, a handful of people did. Most people were like, I don't understand that movie. And later on, my mom, also a big Rocky Horror fan, something that my divorced parents shared in common, one small thing. And she took me to see a stage show version at the Fifth Ave in Seattle. So I got to see the actual theatrical performance. And so that was also absolutely incredible. And that was really the first place I was around drag queens. And I was just like, I never want to leave here. I want to stay here for the rest of my life. This is a perfect group of people, and I've never really felt more at home. And so I have such warm feelings for this film, for all of its characters. I put on the songs when I feel really sad. Like if I can't get out of a dark place, I just put on the soundtrack, and it just works. It just makes me fucking smile no matter what's going on. So I owe a lot to this movie, I think.
That's so good.
That's the tremendous. The power of Rocky Horror.
I also feel that in my soul, and I assume, BJ, you feel the same way. I assume you recognize something about yourself in this film.
So real recognized real, yep.
Oh yeah. And so what's funny is that I actually avoided Rocky Horror for a while because the VHS box cover art freaked me out, but it wasn't Frank sitting on the lips. It was very specifically the bloody font. Like, because I've told
How old are you?
I was like 8 or 9, but
Okay.
like I've told this story, you know, many, many times on the podcast, but like I was never denied access to see anything. I could rent whatever I wanted from the video store, and all of the horror movies were kept in the back room behind the beaded curtain, the way that most video stores would keep porn. That's where they kept horror. And so for whatever reason, the bloody font, like the drippy letters, like bothered me. And I don't know.
Halloween decoration
well, yes,
font.
of course. Now I like look at it and I'm like, well, everybody's just trying to do Rocky Horror. But I was like 8 years old. I was like, I don't like that. And then as I got older, it sort of became like the forbidden movie. Like I really wanted to watch this, but I was like, I don't know. Like the font is bloody. I bet it's really scary. And I mentioned it one time, and my amazing Aunt Julie, the same one who also introduced me to Heathers and like Princess Bride and a ton of movies that are very formative for me, bought me a DVD of the Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was like 12 for like my birthday. She was like, I think you're really gonna like this. And because I was like very much musical theater kid, I watched it, was obsessed with it immediately, watched it probably 10 bajillion times, like immediately after I got it. And I went down like all these rabbit holes wanting to learn more and more about it. I learned that there was a group that did a shadow cast up in Milwaukee. I would like beg friends to like take me up there. And by the time I was a freshman in high school, I did finally get to like sneak up there with some of like the juniors and seniors who would take me, and we're breaking curfew because it's a midnight screening. And I got to see it with a shadow cast, and like being in that room was life-changing for me. And then it became a thing that I did like once a month all throughout high school. As I got older, it became like even more of a thing. The first time I ever saw Trixie Mattel was at Rocky Horror in Milwaukee when she was part of their shadow cast, which is wild because when she ended up on RuPaul's Drag Race the first time, I was like, that's like the usherette for Rocky Horror. I've seen her on like the intersections outside the Oriental Theater with a sign that says fresh bleached pussy. This is wild to me. And so also I recently saw the Strange Journey documentary, and it opens with Trixie and pictures of her at the theater. And it's like, that's the theater I went to see Rocky Horror at, which is very surreal. But it became just a core part of my identity and who I am. Like, people knew that this was a thing that I liked. I've been in multiple stage productions of the show. I've been Columbia, I've been Magenta, I've been the Usherette, I've been in shadow casts, I've hosted screenings. Like, it is very foundational to who I am as a human being. But, you know, speaking to your point, Chelsea, like, the being in that space is like it is one of my safe places. It is one of my sanctuaries. And especially growing up in the Midwest, it really was the place where I figured out the most about myself than anywhere else in the world. And I think that's probably going to end up being like a big part of our conversation today, which is just what this movie unlocks in so many people.
Yeah. I also love that your takeaway from the cover that you saw as a child was not anything about the gender fuckness of it, but just, oh no, scary bloody letters. I think that says something good about you, actually.
Yeah, I was like, this is normal.
This is normal.
This isn't, like, that's nothing new to me. I've seen this before. But bloody letters. Oh no.
Ooh, it's
Some
drippy.
Scooby-Doo shit.
Oh, it's going to be sticky. No.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about, you know, the backstory of how Rocky Horror comes to be. I don't want to like get too bogged down on it.
There's a lot of history. There's a whole documentary that's coming out like right around now.
Yeah, like Strange Journey's out. You can check that out. But, you know, this is very much the brainchild of Richard O'Brien. This is his masterpiece as far as I'm concerned, or, you know, maybe Shock Treatment is, depending on who you ask. But this was a stage show. It was incredibly popular in the UK. It came over to LA. It was very popular in LA, and then it went to Broadway and it fucking flopped because everyone in New York are a bunch of snobs and they're like, "Ooh, it's from the LA. We don't like it then."
They only like the theater that's from their city to succeed.
Exactly.
Yep.
But, you know, it became, you know, the movie, they fought really hard to maintain the rights, to maintain, you know, their decision to cast. At one point, like, Mick Jagger really wanted to play Tim Curry, and they were like, no,
I don't want that.
We would rather have Tim Curry.
Yep. Yeah.
And the movie was released. The movie was also a flop, which was, you know, kind of a shocker to everybody because at this point it had been a sensation for years. But when they started programming it on the midnight circuit, because a lot of college kids were really into it, it found a life of its own. And, you know, we all know the rest is history. It is the longest running movie of all time, the longest running midnight movie of all time. It has an entire culture centered around seeing this movie at midnight. It's audience participation. And every time somebody says, this is just Rocky Horror for a new generation, I should legally be allowed to throat chop them.
Yep.
That's what I feel.
By some metrics, Rocky Horror is the most successful film, like, against its budget of all time, because it has been in theaters for so long. It has made so much money being in those theaters for so long. It has merchandising.
Yeah, it's completely untouchable. And I do know that during like the quarantine era of lockdown, I know that there were people who work at the Oriental Theater in Milwaukee who would play Rocky Horror to empty rooms just so that they wouldn't lose their record of consistent showings of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which just warms my heart.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Chelsea, you're definitely like a whiz when it comes to the history of like midnight shows and sort of like how these weird just cultural artifacts come to be. So I'd love to give you the floor to talk about your knowledge of how Rocky Horror even exists like this.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to. So it's actually really great timing because I just did an episode, or I just recorded an episode, maybe out by the time this recording comes out, with You're Wrong About. And we talked about midnight ghost shows. And what those were is in the 30s all the way to the 60s, there was this like massive, now largely forgotten theater phenomenon that accompanied horror movies. And it grew out of the spiritualist movement, where they would create these seances, right? Everybody knows kind of what the seance vibe was of the Victorian era, where, you know, people would lay their hands on a table and it would float, and a medium would, you know, commune with the dead, and the dead would speak through the medium, and all these parlor tricks would happen. Things would float. People, you know, disguised as ghosts would touch people who were part of the seance. And slowly that turned less into a real belief system, and less of a sincere attempt to contact the dead, and more of like a fun live show to go and enjoy, whether you were a believer or not.
So
and,
like you're wrong about American Hysteria big seance live show that we attended.
Why, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I didn't really know a lot about these shows before. So really we channeled the spirit of these shows without even knowing it.
Listen, history is a big old circle.
It really is. It really is. And from there, these magicians who had learned the tricks that the mediums use to make it seem like their seances were haunted, they, you know, like everyone in the Great Depression, were looking to make more money one way or another. And one place that was still consistently making money were theaters showing movies, and especially horror movies. So they thought, okay, here's a great slot of time, the midnight hour, to make more money without actually having to let go of any of the money we're making from the movies that are showing. So it was just a win-win for everybody, and especially teenagers that became really obsessed with these live shows that started out by, you know, they would either be before or after the showing of a horror movie. They would, at first, these shows were more about creating a seance vibe. Later, they became a little more gory and about creating a little bit of a slasher feel. But all the shows had this moment called the blackout, where all the theater would go completely dark, and they had painted like phosphorus paint across all of these different spooky decorations, and even people who were planted in the audience, and they would flash bulbs as soon as the lights turned off, which would charge all of the paint, and it would just make the whole room come alive with all of these monstrous beings. And they had, you know, sound effects, monsters running through the audience, people, you know, touching people getting their heads chopped off in fake, you know, buzzsaw tricks. And it was just absolute pandemonium and chaos, and people just loved these shows. I mean, I would give anything to get in a fucking time machine and just get to go to one of those shows. But, you know, I think from there, it's a pretty straight line to Rocky Horror, which would come out, you know, 15 years after these shows had petered out because of the drive-in movies had become more popular. And, you know, lots of different cultural factors kind of led to the death of these midnight ghost shows. But Rocky Horror was there to pick up the slack of that. And, you know, it had a lot of people that remembered these midnight ghost shows and remembered the feeling and the audience participation and the communal version of watching a movie. So I think from there, you know, of course, people started to create what would become the script and the prescription for the live shows, the live showings and shadow shows of Rocky Horror.
I love that so much because I get invited to a lot of these like immersive, they call them activations is like the fun PR word they use now. But I was invited to this like immersive activation that Netflix put on for Fear Street Prom Queen. And they had converted a theater in Los Angeles to look like a high school. And the room where you would normally have like the band play or whatever, they turned into like a gym auditorium. It looked like a prom. They had like a stage, and they hired actors to play these like 80s prom girls, but they did use a lot of these like midnight ghost show elements where like the room went black and then suddenly like you would see the shadow of the slasher like killing the prom contestants, and then like their blood would be on the wall and it would be like you're next or whatever. And it was all of these like old school parlor tricks that you're talking about, but in this theatrical setting. And it really was like awesome. It was so much
that sounds
fun.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was so fun. And like, I was not as thrilled with the movie, but like that show rocked. Like big fan of that. And I was like, the whole time I was like, why don't we bring this back? Like everybody's talking about how like theaters are dying. And it's like, maybe we should start doing weird shit like this again because it works.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Gimmicks.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, gimmicks get people in the door. William Castle made a lot of money off of so movies by having a bunch of ridiculous gimmicks.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think that, the vaudevillian roots of camp, right, are also so present throughout all of these midnight ghost shows and William Castle and Rocky Horror. So it's like there is a certain level of, the celebration of tackiness and the celebration of these kinds of cheap gimmicks and, just the trash that for some reason queer people just love. We just love garbage.
We
and
love
I
it.
am proud.
Gobble it all up. But I think what also makes Rocky Horror so special too is that it does come from this tradition of, midnight ghost shows and vaudeville and all of these different elements coming together. And also, I mean, the original stage production, the one that was in London, was incredibly like interactive. They moved throughout the space. Like they would get kind of like, it wasn't a proscenium show. Like they were in it. But what makes it different compared to other midnight movies is that the audience participation aspects of it are communally based. It's organically created. It's not like William Castle where you're going to go see this movie and you're going to experience this, electric buzzing, or you're going to see this thing because that's what he's decided. They are elements that were created by the audience and then carried from the audience from place to place, because what would happen is like people from other states would go to New York City or go to Los Angeles or go to one of the major cities, and then they would hear call outs or hear jokes or hear things that they thought were funny, and then they would bring them back to their hometowns, which is why we ended up with so many of the call outs that are like the same ones. And those were the ones that then ended up on like the records that you could buy, like the audience participation records, or there's like scripts that would make it around. But at the same time, there are these like little regional specificities that then also make it really special. Like there are some jokes that you hear in some places that don't really make sense elsewhere. One of my personal favorites is that if you go to Rocky Horror Milwaukee, I don't know if they still do this call out because, they change all the time. But after the time warp and Brad says, "Hey, do any of you know how to Madison?" The response was always no, but we'll show you how to Milwaukee, because Madison, Wisconsin is where the University of Wisconsin is. So like it's a very Wisconsin specific joke that if I do that joke anywhere else in the country, people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? And
God, I love that.
It's really, it's so personal and it feels personal. And then because we've been saying these call outs for generations, there is this weird, like almost familial feeling I get where I'm like, I'm repeating jokes that came up with by people who probably aren't alive anymore. And we are carrying their words and carrying that legacy with us every time we call Janet a slut. Like that's crazy to think about to me,
So crazy. More after this. And now back to the show. What it reminds me of as an amateur folklorist is folklore and how it works and how you can take something. I happen to be working on an episode for American Hysteria about Bloody Mary. And, we all kind of know the Bloody Mary ritual, right? They're like pretty common factors that everybody knows: chanting, looking in the mirror, being, in a dark room, using a candle. But then you go to different regions and the story behind who Bloody Mary is pretty hyper localized. So it's kind of this amazing thing that you can see in a lot of different aspects of culture. But it really truly is a folk tradition. And I think it's easy not to look at it that way because folklore feels like this distant thing in the past, but this is our folklore. And I just love that so much.
Oh yeah. Like Rocky Horror in so many ways, is kind of like the way that we have repurposed many like Christmas traditions where, you know, Christmas is this thing that naturally evolved through folklore, through paganism. And then the Victorians went, hey, here's some things we really, really like. And then for 50 years, people went, this is what Christmas looks like. We're trying to emulate the Victorians. And then like we got the mid-century, like post World War II. And then people went, this is what Christmas looks like. That's when all the Christmas classics were written. And now we're trying to go ahead and do that. And this is how Christmas has evolved from this pagan/Victorian holiday. And now it's like, Christmas is whatever the fuck your family did in your specific reason. The Christmas pickle is a thing where the first one to find the pickle in the tree gets good luck or whatever. Rocky Horror is kind of this natural evolution of commerce and pop culture and folklore and this communal experience like folk music where everyone naturally learns how to sing a folk song because it is the music of the people. Like it's this very breathing, alive thing that I find so unlike anything else. Even just like comparing Christmas to Halloween, it's like Halloween celebrates tackiness in the way that we really like in Rocky Horror, but at the same time, it's like Rocky Horror feels like it's attached to the, you know, centuries old folklore of Christmas in a way that Halloween doesn't always.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
What's also, now that I'm thinking about it too, is that when I think about, you know, like Christmas, that very much feels like a family holiday. Or I mean, it's technically like one of like the high holy days. So it's also a religious holiday.
Yeah, if you're into that sort of thing.
Right. If you're into that sort of thing, if that's how your family celebrates the holiday versus, you know, the people that are like, Elf on the Shelf is a tradition. And I'm like, it sure as fuck is not. That is like brand new.
Yeah.
But Rocky Horror is typically, I think, because of the horror element associated with like Halloween, and Halloween is very much a communal holiday. You go trick-or-treating in your neighborhood. You don't have like obligatory dinner with grandpa on Halloween. It's very community-based. And so Rocky Horror being such a communal experience, I think really makes sense to me.
No, I agree with that. The communal experience is like the proper way to enjoy Rocky Horror. A fun factoid about the Colangelo household is that until like 2 days ago, we don't actually have a way of watching Rocky Horror at home through our own physical means because we have it on VHS, but we don't have a VCR. I have the soundtrack on vinyl. I have the audience participation movie on vinyl, which BJ mentioned earlier, which is the entire movie but only the sound, and it also has people shouting over it as though you were in the crowd, but also apparently are covering your eyes. Wow. But yeah, it wasn't until we got the 50th anniversary Blu-ray of Rocky Horror that we actually could just put on something and watch it, because our mindset has always been, yeah, if I'm gonna watch Rocky Horror, I'm gonna go watch Rocky Horror. I'm not going to just like sit at home and watch Rocky Horror. Like, don't get me wrong, I like watching the movie. For this rewatch, we watched for the first time, for me at least. I don't know about you, BJ. Was this the first time that you'd seen the black and white intro?
No, I'd seen that plenty of times.
I'd assumed, because like I booted up the Blu-ray and it gave us the option. It was like, would you like to see the original black and white part where it stays in black and white until the time warp and then it bursts into color? And I was like, that'll be interesting. I don't know if it adds anything. It's just neat.
Just Wizard of Ozzy, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very much going for that. And it's also like structured weird because like you burst open the doors to all the Transylvanians saying like, let's do the time warp. And then it immediately cuts again to the criminologist and leaves into like a brown room versus the colorful room. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, in terms of editing, this maybe wouldn't have been the right choice.
I have to say that you having a copy of Rocky Horror on VHS, but not having a VHS player feels like that Twilight Zone where the man wants to be alone with his books so bad at the end of the world, but then when he finally is, his glasses break.
It's not fair.
Yes,
it's not
there was
fair.
Time.
There was time.
No, truly. The thing is, I didn't even go out of my way for that VHS. Like, I just found it at the thrift store, and I was like, this feels like a really unique, weird thing to find at the thrift store. I don't have a VCR, but I'm gonna buy this. Currently, it's behind the bar at where I work because it should be there.
Oh, yes.
And what I
Talisman.
will say as well, in my defense, I did own it on DVD for many a years, but unfortunately, when I fled my bad relationship, some of my movies got left behind, and that sadly is one of them. So then I just didn't invest in a new one because I'm like, well, I know there's going to be some fancy schmancy shit in a few years for the anniversary.
Yeah.
And I was right. Now I have a beautiful 4K steelbook,
Totally.
which I don't know if I've ever needed to see Rocky Horror in 4K, but hey, now I can.
I don't need to see anything in 4K personally. My human eyes cannot process that kind of fidelity.
So we've been talking a bit about, the origins and our own stories, but for those who somehow haven't seen Rocky Horror or know what this is about, Chelsea, how do you pitch this movie to somebody?
Okay, am I pitching or am I plot summarizing? I'm pitching.
I whatever you feel.
Well, yeah,
Follow your
with
heart.
your heart.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess if people were asking, what is this movie about? Why should I see this movie? I would explain it as sort of a transformation that occurs when two very vanilla, a very 50s vanilla guy and gal, Brad and Janet, find themselves lost after their car breaks down, and they seek refuge in a nearby castle that just happens to be in Texas. And they are welcomed into a strange and twisted world of sexuality and rock and roll. And slowly they are kind of affected and infected by this strange force that is sort of, led by a cross-dressing, transvestite who kind of seduces both of them, who is also making a man for himself that is like this perfect specimen who is very gorgeous, and it's very Frankenstein. And from there, you follow the relationships between all of the different characters and their sordid little affairs. And God, there's so much in this movie. We meet another character who was another lover of Dr. Frankenfurter, our cross-dressing host. And we find out that he's got half a brain, and then he gets killed in a bloody scene, and then they eat him. And,
Naturally, as you do.
I thought this would be easier. It's a dense film. It's a dense text.
It's just lots of stuff happening. It's like this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens.
Exactly.
It's not a lot of this, therefore. It's just stuff happening in sequence.
You're right. You're right.
I love your synopsis because you're giving things where you're describing the movie, and it's like, he's a transvestite. I'm like, from transsexual Transylvania. It's
Yeah,
and he's making a man. I'm like, yes, with blonde hair and a tan. Like it's just reflexive. Where I just want to finish the thing.
Yeah, I'm the worst person in the world to watch Rocky with, especially if it's not in a theatrical setting, because I literally cannot not do call outs because they are in my bones.
Yeah.
But ultimately, are we afraid of spoilers for Rocky?
No, never.
Okay,
never in a million years.
Not for a 50-year-old movie, especially.
No. But really, everything descends into a kind of sexual chaos, and we find out eventually that they're all aliens, and, they're from the planet transsexual and the galaxy of Transylvania. And then the house takes off into the sky after they revolt against Frankenfurter and return to their home planet. And Brad and Janet writhe upon the grass in some sort of agony ecstasy hybrid, like insects called the human race, It's
of course.
Oh no, that's us.
Yeah, it's a perfect film if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And between all of this, we have incredible music and questionable dancing and inventive, iconic costume design and cheap effects that were done intentionally cheap. It truly is a perfect movie because it is everything that I think so many of us just love distilled into one just hour 40-minute it's brilliant. To really kick off our in-depth discussion, we have to talk about the life-affirming and altering power of Tim Curry in Fishnets. We have to talk about the alpha omega entity that is Dr. Frankenfurter. Chelsea, just lay it on me. What does Frank mean to you?
God, I mean, talk about like the universal icon of like sexual attraction. I think that we would be really hard pressed if we did some sort of fucked up like 50s sex test and like put little nodes on people's foreheads or their genitals. Sorry, this is terrible. But we would be able to see that no matter who you are, you have some reaction toward this being that is Tim Curry in fishnets and in this like incredible kind of burlesque outfit. I mean, I am so attracted to Tim Curry, who I don't think you would look at and say that is a handsome person or that is a beautiful person in terms of like our idea of what is attractive. But it is truly like through his complete and utter like self-possession that he shows us that like anyone can be hot. And I love that, like, that is his power, is like, look at me. Would you expect to be so turned on by what I'm doing and by how I'm acting and by what I'm saying and what I'm singing? It's like the average person would say no, but they would leave that theater saying, oh yeah.
No, I think that's such a great point too, because Tim Curry, I think, is so like enigmatic and so sexy. And I think it's because Frankenfurter, I will see those little glimmers of Frankenfurter in other roles that he takes on. Like I see it a little bit in Wadsworth or I'll see it in whatever. But at the end of the day, like this is the guy that voices Nigel Thornberry. You don't want to fuck Nigel Thornberry, but like I would let Frankenfurter run me over with a truck. I don't care. Yeah. And I agree with you completely. I do think that like Dr. Frankenfurter goes beyond the confines of gender, of sexuality, just like Frankenfurter is like the hottest entity to ever exist. And like, that's not, I'm not willing to entertain any other insight. If you say anything else, I think you're a liar, personally.
I agree.
Oh, totally. This is a movie about the perversion of science. And I think that I don't think we have to pervert too much to understand the results of our experiments here in our own little personal labs.
I'm sorry I did that metaphor.
But no, like I totally agree. When I was first coming out as trans, when I was starting to question things, kind of how I did like a temperature check to be like, how cool are you going to be? How much can I confide in you about this whole thing? I'd be like, just find ways to be like, how you feel about Rocky Horror Picture Show? And they'd be like, oh, I hate it. And I'm like, well, all right then. Now I know where we stand on things.
Yep.
I said this as a joke once, like some years ago. And then I was like, no, it's not a joke though. That was just reality. And I hadn't clued in on it, where I was like, Frankenfurter is the blueprint. Tim Curry in this movie is the blueprint for everything I ever wanted to be. Something that I loved listening to so much in the Strange Journey documentary is Tim Curry talking about personifying this role. And the thing that he understands is just like, oh no, this role is power. It's not necessarily about like whether Tim Curry himself is the sexiest person in the world. It's a matter of like, he's so powerful and commanding and confident that it doesn't matter whether you agree. He's going to make you agree. Like he is just that captivating. Genuinely like an all-time great on-screen performance, because it is just so intense and so overpowering. And this is one of those instances where I look at Tim Curry and I'm just like, yeah, you're one of the women who raised me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
If Frankenfurter doesn't believe in vocal training, then fuck it, neither do I. And we're like, oh, she, ah! Just like deep bellowing bass. It's like, that's naturally what my voice does. And it's like, you are who I've always tried to be. It's like trashy and sexy and confident and loud. Like, God, I love Frankenfurter so much.
That is so beautiful. And, I'm going to be really perverted right now and say that because of my love of Tim Curry and Rocky Horror, it has, like you said, kind of like transferred to his other roles, so much so that one of my other favorite movies of all time, the 1990 miniseries, Stephen King's It, I can get into Pennywise. Like, sometimes I'm like, Pennywise can get it because
Especially
it is the echo of this character that is just like so overpoweringly sexy.
Especially like Pennywise in the library. Like Pennywise telling pranks like, you got Prince Albert in a can. You do. You might want to let the poor guy out. Like, yeah, that is Frankenfurter all goddamn day.
Yeah. I mean, Pennywise has top energy for sure.
Oh, there's no question about it, for sure.
I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. So, come up to the lab and see what's on the slab. I see you shiver with anticipation.
Tim Curry in this movie is ridiculous too, because Frankenfurter is undoubtedly a bad person. Like, he kills Meatloaf and eats him. He's like splitting
Well, what else
brains.
do you do with meatloaf? You eat meatloaf.
It's right there
The
in the
meatloaf's
name.
gone bad and it's singing. Like there's like he kills people, he keeps people as sex slaves. Like, he's not a good person. But also, by the end of this movie, when Frank is singing I'm Going Home, like, I burst into tears every time because I'm just so mesmerized. And like, it's why when Magenta says like, how sentimental, people always say like, you bitch, because it's like, how dare you? He's incredible.
Oh and man, that song, I tell everyone I can, when I die, I want that performed at my memorial with a choir of everybody that ever cared about me. So I'm saying it here, put it in the vault. In the vault. Yep.
It's on record.
Yeah, the two, I'm so glad that you said that, because that's also on my wishes, because I had to unfortunately fill out my wishes when I had cancer, because it didn't look good, but hey, I'm still kicking. And the two songs that I said were mandatory is that I wanted the start of like my funeral or whatever to be The Hell of It from Phantom of the Paradise, and I'm Going Home to be the end of it. That's what people would play, and then that's when you go home. So
wow, BJ, we share that together. That's pretty special. I haven't heard anyone else say that, so it's pretty nice.
Well, what's also fascinating is I recently got to moderate the Q&A with Linus O'Brien, Richard O'Brien's son, who directed the Strange Journey documentary. And he said one of the reasons why he wanted to make the documentary in the first place is because he would see people's comments on like YouTube or whatever on Rocky Horror videos, or people would send fan mail to his dad, and somebody talked about I'm Going Home being the song that they played at their mother's funeral.
Whoa.
And that was the like aha moment that Linus had of being like, this affects people far beyond what we already know that it does. And I want to explore that. Mm-hmm. So I find it to be very beautiful, especially because, I mean, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but like Rocky Horror has gained kind of a contentious reputation in recent years. But for the people that this movie resonates with, like, this is, you know, this is our life movie. This is our funeral movie. This is from womb to the tomb, baby. Like, this is kind of everything for a lot of people.
No, absolutely.
Yep.
And so let's kind of talk about like why we think that is, because breaking down all of these little points, you know, Brad and Janet being exposed to new ways of living and new people and liberation and sexual freedom and all of that are there. But those sorts of themes are in a lot of movies. Those sorts of, you know, journeys are present in a lot of stories. Why do we think it is that Rocky Horror exists as it does? Like, why is it this that is the thing that is so impactful for generations of people, especially young people?
Well, I think first and foremost, it is totally sincere. It just comes from like an extremely organic place. It's a lot of the same people who did the stage show coming together to do the movie. The movie is just put together from pure inspiration. You know, it was just like, what is Richard O'Brien feeling at that particular moment? Anyway, I wrote this song in an afternoon. Bang. It's an unbelievably catchy, beautiful song. I think there's that like you can feel that. It's also just like the joy of watching an entire cast who has been refining these characters a million times over for the last few years on screen. That's tremendous. You can feel like the perfection in those performances. Above it all, though, it's like more than it being a well put together piece of art, more than it being anything, it is permission to be who you want to be. You know, don't dream it, be it. It is the freedom to explore yourself in a safe environment. Prior to, you know, if you're going to come out as queer, straight people can go to Rocky Horror and you can dress up like whatever you want because every single outfit that you can wear to Rocky Horror is gay. All of them. Every one of them. Even somehow like maybe the most hetero one is Meatloaf, but it's still kind of gay because it's a costume and it's like, oh, you're putting on a little show. You got a little outfit, you know, it's still kind of gay. It's giving you the permission. It is liberation and freedom, especially in places like where BJ and I are from, which is like red states or, you know, red environments. Because, you know, listen, Illinois has got Chicago, but the rest of the state is pretty damn red.
Yeah.
Ohio doesn't swing that much. And I don't mean that thing if you ain't got that swing. So it is, you know, it's a light over at the Frankenstein place, as it were. You know, it is a dark, scary, dangerous environment. And then when you enter the doors, you get to go, I can be whoever I want to be. And I won't be judged for being whoever I want to be. It is freedom.
Absolutely. And something that just occurred, I mean, I agree with everything you said, and it was very well said. And I feel like something that just occurred to me for some reason while you were talking is like, I grew up in a family and I very much carry on this tradition with the people that I love. Like, the teasing kind of feeling of the show where it's like there's so much like love there, but it's shown in this very like it's shown through like teasing and through this almost obscured lens so that you can express a lot of things while still feeling safe, right? Like it's like when you care for someone, even someone you've just met, and you're like, I know that you're like right for me. That's how I'm gonna express my love, is I'm gonna make fun of you in a really loving way. And I'm gonna hope to God that you make fun of me back. And that's really what I want. And I have a feeling that both of you can relate to that feeling too.
Oh, is it ever? BJ said in front of an entire theater of people at a screening recently that I sometimes refer to her as my busted can of biscuits, where it's like you go to get the Pillsbury crescent rolls or whatever, and you take the little foil off and then you bang it on the counter. And it bursts. That's kind of how she's built. And so she announced that to everyone. And Alison Brie thinks I'm funny.
Oh my God. Well, it's an honor. Yeah.
Truly. But no, I agree. I think it's this like, this kind of like cheeky Britishisms, you know, it's got catty gay-isms to it that are very recognized, but also exciting because, you know, Brad and Janet are high school sweethearts from fucking Denton, Ohio or whatever. Like, she reads The Plain Dealer. Is it in Ohio? I don't know.
So the thing is, like, because Denton has been described as being both Texas and Ohio.
Yeah.
Because
I guess they never say, do they?
Just anywhere in America.
They never say, but like Denton, Texas is what it seems to be more implied with in Shock Treatment. But then they read The Plain Dealer, which is
an Ohio
newspaper. So it's like, I guess maybe that's their way of being like, it's anywhere USA.
Or it could very easily just be some Brits who don't understand geography in America.
Also true.
That's quite possible.
It's like the Springfield.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like listening to the band Paper Lace in their song "The Night Chicago Died" talk about the east side of Chicago, which is not the east side of
That's
Chicago.
the lake.
It's the lake. You know, the way that we talk about most countries and regions in America.
Yes.
But Brad and Janet are, you know, nice. You know, they're these good old American kids. You know, Brad's got the energy of having been on the varsity football team, and Janet probably was the captain of a boring club. You know, very milquetoast individuals, but they're being corrupted by all of these like filthy Brits, and that makes like the way they talk foreign. The fact that they're aliens is quite literally foreign. There's something otherworldly just about where the cast and the inspiration comes from that I think makes it feel extremely exciting. Especially for like the origin of Rocky Horror being rooted very heavily in like rock and roll, obviously, but the iteration of rock and roll that it was coming out of was early 70s glam rock in the UK. Like the Rocky Horror Picture Show is arguably one of the greatest glam rock albums of all time, along with like David Bowie, T-Rex, Slade, etc. And that's a genre that bombed pretty heavily here.
Yeah.
T-Rex had one hit in the United States. It's Bang a Gong, Get It On. And they had like 15 top 10 singles in a row in the UK. Like David Bowie was huge there. Slade was huge there. Sweet was there. Like these bands that were like tremendous chart successes and have virtually no presence here because it was a little too androgynous. It was a little too glittery. It was a little too whatever.
It was too gay.
It was like Lou Reed had like, you know, a fluke one hit with Walk on the Wild Side. The New York Dolls are like influential and acclaimed, but like weren't successful. This was something else entirely that we didn't recognize in our normal American life.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
It is. And then the one thing I'll put on my little sociologist cap, because I do feel like Rocky Horror like holds within itself like the story of American culture in terms of like middle of the century post-war life, right? It's kind of like we have Brad and Janet, we have our like 50s, early 60s archetypal young people. And then they are, you know, entering into this new world, i.e. maybe the civil rights movements that were happening, the gay rights movement, the women's rights movement. And these things are altering our culture and our young people in a way that is kind of difficult to ever like put back. Like you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube, right?
Oh, yeah,
and so
absolutely.
I think it just rose to meet this moment that just was so incredibly powerful and changed everything about the country and allowed this permissiveness to enter into the mainstream, which it very much was by the mid 70s. And so I think that it is this cultural text that even if we're not actively thinking about it, it holds kind of like a collective consciousness of our history here, even though, you know, and in the UK. I mean, it's a similar situation, but I think it just really hit here when it did and the way that it did because of where we were in American history.
Oh, precisely. I mean, you have it in the opening number, you know, name dropping all of these classic B movies, classic science fiction. Yep. Even if people, 50 years now from when this movie came out aren't necessarily aware of all of the references, those were a lot of stories that were existing during the Hays Code. And these were these stories that were coded for something. They were about something. And pulling the inspiration from that and then just kind of making a lot of it really textual now that we are out of the Hays Code makes it like this kind of wholly unique examination of what that was in a new, like, modern modern queer sense that has continued to evolve and live and is connected to this form of America quite subconsciously. That's actually a really interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, that was really smart, Harmony.
I mean, I'm okay. I'm really just building off of what you got, but thank you.
I mean, and
together we make one brain, Harmony.
Yeah, exactly. We are like Rocky and Eddie.
More after this. And now back to the show.
I mean, and something else that is very important to take note of, which is, I think, harder sometimes for people today to recognize because movie theaters have become so expensive for a lot of people. But during the 70s, 80s, 90s, honestly, even into the early 2000s, movie theaters were such an accessible refuge for a lot of audiences. It being a cheap ticket and a midnight start time, which is when the majority of people are not working, made going to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show too also something that like working class people and working class queer people could see. And
all those third shift factory jobs.
Right.
Like I worked so many of those where your shift starts at 8 p.m.
Right.
And you can't just like, oh, you got the day off. Well, I'm going to be awake during normal hours. No, it throws your sleep schedule off. You have to stay on nighttime.
Yeah. And so, and it's also a movie theater. It's not a bar. It's not a nightclub. So you can be under 21 and go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And so this also offers like a rare space for like young people. It offers a third, like kind of a third space. I know third space technically things that you don't pay for, but whatever, that's semantics here. But it offers this like real life community space. And it's also because this movie is so popular, it is a place where a lot of like straight and cisgender people are willingly and joyfully stepping into queer culture. They are singing, they're shouting, they're dressing up. Like it isn't just a movie, it is a lifeline. And for the story of it to also be reflective of what it is providing in real life, like that's magic in a bottle. Like you cannot recreate that. It's impossible.
It is. The only thing I can think of, and this is just a like aside, is I live in Washington State, really close to North Bend, which is where Twin Peaks was filmed. And when David Lynch died, it was like not that long after that they had their Twin Peaks festival, and they had a memorial for David Lynch at the festival. And there were like people from Mulholland Drive in it, and, you know, people from Twin Peaks. And it was really incredible. And I got to go, and it was like being there with all of like the David Lynch freaks in one room, like crying together and like meditating together, because of course he was a transcendental meditation obsessive. And so it was like, that is the only place that I feel like had that same feeling. And of course, there is so much in common between David Lynch and Richard O'Brien. It takes very different forms, but I feel like it comes from the same heart. And so it was like, there are just these special groups that can form around a piece of media, but it's still so unique and rare because of course there's fandom, but I don't know, there's an ineffable quality to both of those things to me.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right too, because you know there was a similar thing at the Bob's Big Boy in Burbank when he died over here, because he used to hang out there all the time.
People were leaving 2 cookies and Cokes.
People were leaving 2 cookies and Cokes outside of outside of like the statue of Bob's Big Boy. I mean, like it really was that. Like people would just like stand around the effigy of Bob's Big Boy and just cry.
Yeah.
There is a familial aspect of this fandom. Like there really isn't like a reputation for there being like toxic Rocky fans the way that there are toxic Star Wars fans or toxic X-Men fans. Like that exists.
Other things that bred the idea of cosplay and fandoms, you know, like Rocky Horror is like kind of invented the idea of like cosplay in so many ways. People go, oh, Star Wars. I'm like, yeah, these also evolved at the same time. But the problem is like with things like that being so immensely popular, you attract all sorts when something's immensely popular versus Rocky being popular with all of the right people and the ones who stay committed rather than go once and say, yeah, I did it. You know, those people tend to weed themselves out.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's truly the obsessives who really gather something meaningful from this.
Totally.
Whatever happened to Fairy? That delicate satin draped frame as it clung to her thigh, how I started to cry, 'cause I wanted to be dressed just the same. Give yourself over to absolute pleasure. Swim the warm waters of sins of the flesh. Erotic nightmares beyond any measure and sensual daydreams to treasure forever. Can't you just see it? Oh, 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 oh.
I do want to talk about the way that Rocky Horror has sort of evolved in the public consciousness, because for the longest time, you know, Rocky Horror really was a sanctuary. This was one of the few places that queer people could be safe, or that, you know, gender variant people could explore with gender presentation and not have to worry about being arrested or being harassed by the cops. Like, it was a safe place for people to explore that. But now I think because there is, you know, more acceptance, obviously it's still a very tumultuous time for queer and trans people in America, but there is still an increased level of acceptance that must be acknowledged, that a lot of people are like very critical of Rocky Horror. There was even an article that I think Them published on its 50th anniversary that people were furious about, because the headline of it was, yes, Rocky Horror is transphobic, but we love it anyway. And everyone's like, what are we doing here? Like, what is the fucking point of this?
Something can't be transphobic if it's literally made by a trans person.
So, yeah, I kind of want to like ask the two of you your feelings on, I guess, the current crop of youths that are like, I don't like Rocky Horror. I think it's cringe to like it. And I also think it's problematic and offensive.
Harmony,
I don't know why that's
first.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I have so much to say. I don't know. I think there is something about modern taste that lends that favors DIY. You know, they like, you know, content creators. However, those content creators have to have a certain level of professional polish that the tackiness of Rocky Horror doesn't necessarily suit. I think they also tend to look at it as like literal text. And as anybody who's listening to this episode has figured out, talking about Rocky Horror as a movie is like really insufficient. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not talking about the vast things of why this is important or interesting by merely discussing the movie. Because yes, is Frankenfurter like a killer crossdresser? Yes, he is. Is he also coercing Brad and Janet? Yes, he does. He is the villain after all. Like, he's a sympathetic villain, as many queer villains were in cinema. And we don't see them so much these days. But like, that's why he's an interesting character. He's not squeaky clean, and that's why it's exciting. I think there's a lot to be said about Richard O'Brien having complicated feelings about his own gender for a very, very, very long time. Mm-hmm. And the way that manifests both lovingly and perhaps monstrously in this movie is interesting. Mm-hmm. I think it's weird to think that Rocky Horror is transphobic or that Richard O'Brien is transphobic when, like, it is so beyond normal constructs of gender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a thing that I definitely want to mention, because I know a lot of people have said in the past, they're like, well, Richard O'Brien is actually transphobic because he said trans women aren't women. But I think the thing that gets lost when people point out that talking point is that, like, Richard O'Brien is a non-binary person who predates the terminology of non-binary.
Bunch of DIY, HRT, just doing a whole lot of weird little experiments on his own body to make him feel at home in his gender. You know, like, the first shot you see in the Rocky doc is like 85-year-old Richard O'Brien walking around in his little black heels with skinny pants on, and he's got a bald head going like, that's right, I grew up in New Zealand right here.
I used to cut hair right here where the statue is. Yeah.
It's adorable. He's just a cute little queer guy, and I love him. But yeah, like, Richard O'Brien says that, like, trans women are not women in, you know, the context that he's saying it is saying, like, trans women shouldn't be treated like cis women because they're not the same as cis women. And I agree. I am not the same as a cis woman, and I would like to be acknowledged as so. It doesn't necessarily need to be a better or worse, but it's like any other qualifiers for something. It is greater than the general concept of gender. Essentially, Richard O'Brien is looking at gender the way, like, the Kinsey scale is, which obviously is, like, you know, kind of archaic, but it's a decent foundation to understand that most people are not wholly at either end, and most people fall somewhere in the middle, and that is actually far more gender inclusive.
Yeah.
That's what Rocky Horror is.
Yeah, Richard O'Brien is kind of playing like 7D chess when it comes to discussing gender. Like, our current language is not able to capture what Richard O'Brien is trying to discuss with gender. So then you get these like simplistic sound bites that people think can then just go like, see, look, Richard O'Brien.
It's also easy to just like, you just say something that's just really second nature to you and then don't elaborate on it because it's like, well, yeah, duh. This is just, it's so easy to understand because it's easy for you to understand, but other people need more.
Yeah.
I often say things and BJ goes, you need that. You can't just say one sentence and move on. You need to elaborate for people. But Chelsea, please share. I would love to hear your thoughts on this whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you both said was very good and sums up a lot of my feelings. I always go back to the fact that Rocky Horror came out mere years after Stonewall, mere years after the beginnings of the gay rights movement, which of course really, really marginalized the very important trans women that were really responsible for leading us through. And I think that how this was incredibly revolutionary for its time, just to see these types of people on the big screen, whether they're problematically portrayed or not. I think that we are applying a very modern lens, as we often do, to things that actually couldn't have foreseen what the future would have been like enough to, present themselves in a way that would be appropriate for us, 50 years later. So it's just kind of like inevitable that this movie is not going to necessarily reach the high standards that we have for our media now. That being said, if you want to critique this movie, go for it. If you want to hot take yourself right into the sun, that's your right. I tend to avoid online discourse when I can, which is lucky because I have a history show, so I don't necessarily have to be talking about modern issues, which is something that I think you both have to do a little bit more for your jobs. But so I don't come across as much criticism of it, but I know it's out there. And I also think when it comes to the cringiness factor, that meme is so true. Like, to be cringe is to be free. Like, the older I get, the more I revel in being an embarrassment. It just, I don't know if we're going to convince anyone today. If you have negative feelings about it, it's coming from, I'm sure your own life experience. It doesn't really make sense to me, and it doesn't resonate with my personal journey. But I also look back at media and talk about it through a modern lens, but I think that you can do that while holding simultaneous truths about its revolutionary nature and how important it was to the growth of so many people and the ability for so many people to actually figure out who they are, who they love, how they want to look, who they want to be. Like, that is undeniable that continues to happen into this very day. And we do have what Harmony, BJ, and I talk about a lot, which is this, killer cross-dresser trope, right? That has been so damaging that is here again with the Ed Gein show from darling Ryan Murphy.
Love Ryan Murphy.
God, man. It has problematic elements if you want to look at it that way, and it has incredible, beautiful elements if you want to look at it that way. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and swing toward joy here today, folks. So, I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe this is going to make me sound like old man shakes hand at cloud.
Old man Colangelo.
Yeah. Old man Colangelo shaking my fist at the clouds here about these dang darn youths. But when it comes to whether or not this movie is problematic, in what universe is this movie grounded in reality to where we should be applying problematic messages to our day-to-day lives? They're fucking aliens.
This is also so not the culprit you should be pointing to when you talk about this trope as a problem.
No, it's not. It really
all the Ed Gein stuff that's the problem.
Yes, that is the problem. an alien from outer space that happens to dress in drag. Like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. Like, in no universe.
It's just saying that drag and women's clothing is like alluring and exciting, that this extraterrestrial being who came here to fucking wipe us off the face of the earth because we're insects was just like, yeah, but your culture's like sexy and exciting and like satiny and soft and fun, and I just want to experience all of it. How is that not fun for you? Like, what the fuck?
And also, like, I do think, too, and this is maybe a scorching hot take, but I do think that a lot of people's discomfort with Frankenfurter or with any of these characters is actually less about the fact that, you know, Frank is, you know, Tim Curry in drag. I think it's that, like, he's hedonistic. And I think that people are terrified of, you know, we're in this puritanical culture, a very conservative country. I think people are terrified of being affiliated with the hedonism more than they're afraid of being affiliated with, like, the drag read or the trans read.
Or the violence. Like, we're a country that's really desensitized to violence and a lot of other things, but boy, howdy, we're sexually repressed.
Yeah.
It's a whole ass problem here. And I think that is really a much larger element. It's what the whole movie builds towards with the floor show is like, it's not about anything else. At the end of the day, the whole movie is just rocketing towards that conclusion of just being fucking filthy and enjoying it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you all, and I'm gonna, you know, set the table by talking about my own experiences here. Becoming a fan of Rocky Horror, when falling in love of Rocky Horror and watching it privately on my 120 gig iPod. So my screen was like maybe 2x3, tiny little screen of the first, like most of the time when I watch this movie. It's in my top 10 most movies I've watched.
Movies on iPods.
Right? Yeah, like that's how I watched a lot of my favorite movies because it was, I had the luxury of privateness and I couldn't very well get it off my computer and put it on the TV like that. Yeah. I didn't have those means growing up. So when I first like fell in love with this, like I think of the Drew Carey Show, I think of the recountings of it from VH1, and the time warp is like, you know, Richard O'Brien doing like, it's astounding, and he's got this deep voice, but then he goes like and screams out these big notes about being under sedation, or it's like the time warp, and it's like his voice does things my voice could never ever do. Columbia's voice does things my voice could never ever do. Technically, the singers in this movie, no one is great necessarily in like a Broadway sense, but they are all phenomenal singers. They're all weirdos. They're all perfect for these roles because they're all really captivating singers. I loved listening to like high-pitched voice singers. Like, I'm like, I love Axl Rose. I love Steve Perry from Journey. I love Justin Hawkins from The Darkness. I want to sing like that. I want these high notes. I'm going to hit them. I'm going to belt my face off because it feels good because I have a naturally baritone voice, and hitting high notes is like, you're not supposed to do that. Like, that was the first part of like my gender liberation, was hitting ridiculous high notes in Deep Purple's Child in Time that I'm not supposed to be able to hit. But I said, fuck you. I'm going to do it anyway. But I can't do that in Rocky Horror necessarily. And as I've evolved as an individual, I'm like, listen, I would love to say that I'm like, you know, small and androgynous like Little Nell or Richard O'Brien and be like that. But I'm like, that's not me. And I accept that that's not me. I'm Tim Curry. I'm taller and I have a bellowing voice and I'm loud and I'm arguably too mouthy, but that's the best part of it. Like, I can chronicle my own gender expression, my own comfort with myself, of who I think I wanted to be to who I became, by just seeing exactly what I prioritized in Rocky Horror as like aspirational. Like, what songs do I enjoy singing the most?
Yeah.
And it's the Tim Curry numbers. Like, I still love every single song on this soundtrack. I mean, maybe Eddie a little bit less because Dr. Scott's part is kind of fine, you know, but you know, that's for me. I'm curious if you all have like, can you track your explorations into yourself? You know, where you stop dreaming it and you start to be it. Do you ever have this? What has Rocky Horror done to help you explore yourself?
Okay, I do have an answer for this. So I've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but like, while I definitely identify as cis, I will say that I'm more like cis-ish or cish. I identify as Elvira more than anything, because the way that Elvira's approach to gender is that Elvira is the inverse of what we view as androgynous with, like, you know, David Bowie, or these like very like feminine men who are very angular. Elvira is a womanly woman who is very round, but she's very tough and very aggressive and masculine in that regard. And that is very much how I view myself. But when I was younger, I was absolutely a Columbia. Like, you're showy, you're big, you're bright, you're vibrant, you're very emotional, you're very loud, you're saying things when you probably should just shut the fuck up and get your tits off the tank. Like, that is very much who I was. But as I've gotten older, the person that I most identify with as far as myself is actually the usherette, which is a role that doesn't exist in the movie. But the usherette, for those who've never seen a live show or who've never seen the stage production, the usherette is who sings science fiction double feature at the beginning. She's usually dressed as kind of like a cigarette girl or somebody that's like selling something. And she is the person who welcomes people into the space, who makes them feel at home, who makes them feel comfortable, and prepares them for the journey that they're about to go on. That is who I resonate with the most. I have like very strange moments where I'm like, ooh, this feels like gender euphoria to me. Like, the easy one is when I have like bright Barbie pink manicured nails and then I eat like hot wings and they get disgusting and like trash. Yep. Like, that is gender euphoria to me. But one of my biggest moments of gender euphoria was during the last time I was in a live show. I was the usherette, and they recorded me singing science fiction double feature with like bright red lips. They blacked out my face and they would project my mouth on the back of the theater. And then I would sing live to my own mouth. And there was something about seeing this like high glam, perfectly pristine presentation of my mouth and then being on stage with my hair fucking wild, covered in glitter, ripped fishnet, looking like a mess, and singing to that perfect encapsulation of femininity that like really unlocked some shit in me.
It's the contrast for you.
It's the contrast. And then being able to do all of that while also like, I am in control of this room at this moment. Like, everyone is hanging on the words that I'm saying. And like, what I do in this room right now is going to set the bar for the rest of the evening for everyone on stage, for everyone in this room. Like, that is my true power. That I love that feeling. It's why I like doing Q&As. It's why I like moderating. I like being able to like set the tone of someone else's experience. And I get that also is how I am sexually. So like,
because you're a bottom, yes.
I am a service top. Yep. That's what I like to do.
And we salute you, mommy.
Thank you. Anyway, Chelsea, how about you?
God, that was such an incredible image of you singing to your own mouth. I mean, come on. That's just so incredible. Let's see. So I think that, when we talk about like what character did we usually go as to the theater, and mine was usually Rocky. And, I would get the gold booty shorts. If it was cold, I kind of made this like wrap that I could put, like the mummy wrap around my body, and then I could take it off when I got in the theater. And, just kind of like smashing down my breasts and then covering them with like the mummy wrap. And then just really being like a full-on twink was very much a gender euphoria moment for me, because I do feel like there are two wolves inside of me, and one of them is a twink and one of them is like a masculine man. I got a girl in there too, but I'm not really sure where she's located currently. But I definitely feel like my femininity through my twinkiness. And so I think and that's confusing, right? Like, it's like you gotta pass through some different layers of the haunted house to get to that room where you're like, okay, I was born a girl, but I feel more like a boy, but that boy is gay. It takes a while to get there. So I think that was part of it, is just like the many faces of gender that you could choose from in this movie, and how none of them are fully one or the other, except maybe Brad and Janet might be kind of our archetypal masculine, feminine energy, whatever, even though Brad's pretty gay, obviously.
Clearly.
And so,
I mean, and Janet has no problem.
Oh, no, she has no
fucking
problem.
Frank with a full face of makeup staring her down.
Yeah.
Truly. So I do think that was definitely a part of it. I think also it really let me know how important camp was to me, and how before that, it's like, I always love, and I mean, to this day, I do. I'm going to one tonight. I love haunted houses. Like the euphoria that I feel getting scared in a haunted house by people acting like ridiculous villains, and, you know, the tacky scenes of all of the limbs chopped off and all of the beheadings and all of that, like ridiculous, like drag of gore is like so much a part of who I am. And I think it just really taught me that like there is such an allure for me toward not only the trashy and the tacky, but to the like hyperbolic, right? To the larger than life aspects of our culture, and the things that you can gravitate toward that mirror the world back to you in like this fun house kind of mirror. And Rocky Horror just did that so perfectly for me. And it showed me too that, you know, I write songs. I love writing songs. I don't have the best voice. I'm very aware of that. And like you talked about, Harmony, like there was something incredible about watching people in a musical that, you know, to a lot of people, they'd say, that's not a good singer, but they're so effective and they're so full of like heart and they're so individualized that it just, when it all comes together, it just does feel like that home you want to live in that has every aspect that you need to kind of go forward in the world, being authentic, whether that's as an artist, in your gender, or just as a human being. It's just, it has all the things that you need. It has like a full toolkit for life, at least for me.
No, totally. Like a fantasy is the most of something, right? Like it's inherently over the top. It's hedonistic. Like the idea of a fantasy is that it's beyond reality. So there's something that I think I'm realizing by listening to all of us, you know, myself included, as I unpacked my own thoughts live, it's the contrast, you know, it's the stark like ways that you navigate through things in a complicated way that gets you to your destination. That is, I think, appealing about this.
Yeah.
Magenta's a French maid, which is a very feminine thing, but she has a deep voice. You know, like Brad is the all-American boy who absolutely fucks Tim Curry in this movie, and that's fine. Like Meatloaf is the, you know, the football star who ends up getting into theater and ends up in this movie eventually.
And is so hot.
Yeah.
Like I'm
big boys, you need to put on them tight jeans and make them look. Shorts all year is not the look. Like this is the look. Meatloaf looks so hot in this movie.
He's so
and it's
hot.
not right. It's perfect. But like he ends up being like the tough biker guy, and yet his ex is Frankenfurter. And Frank also has different tastes where it's like, listen, my ex was the chubby guy, and now my ex is going to be, you know, Charles Atlas approved. And so he's got like a big range of the men that he's interested in. You know, Brad is somewhere in the middle with no muscles and no nothing, and he's got glasses and he's a dork. He just loves everyone.
But also, like, when you really think about Frank's trajectory, like Frank went from Columbia, then to Eddie, then to Rocky, then to Janet, then to Brad. Like, Frank is everywhere.
These are the big swings for us, where we're all just jumping around from one extreme to the other until eventually we figure out where we as individuals sit. Where I'm like, oh, I want to be able to hit the high notes Columbia hits. I want to hit, you know, the high notes Richard O'Brien can hit. And I was like, yeah, I could. I mean, I didn't sing it maybe necessarily as well as them, but it's like, no, now I want to go low. Now I want to go low and loud, and I want to be Tim Curry. Like, it's these constant fluctuation throughout the entire movie of like masculine, feminine, highs and lows, and sex and repression and good guy, bad guy. It's just operating on like this really electric back and forth the entire time. Like, it is kinetic in a way that just not all movies can really balance this. And really, this movie, I don't know how it like so organically balanced it. It's because it's so of itself. It's so homoousian. I don't really know if like we can really quantify what it's doing. And I don't know if they thought what they were doing was as genius as it is, but clearly like these harsh differences are like what really resonates with at least us, and I assume other people.
Lightning struck, man. It was really just it feels spiritual. I'm gonna say it. It feels like divinely inspired. It came from on high, and it was dropped down to us. And you know, I'm just so thrilled to have a god like Frank.
Totally.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode brought to us by This Ends at Prom, one of my favorite shows out there. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and find them on social media at This Ends at Prom. This episode was produced by Pod People Productions. Go to podpeople.me to find out more about them. Thanks, as always, for listening, and I hope to see you all soon at the midnight show so we can do the time warp again. Have a great week.